are talking about wearable tech. Obviously, there's a lot of buzz around it because it's a rapidly growing sector. But what is it? What are the new products that are out there? And sort of what challenges is the sector facing in terms of development, marketing, retail? But before we get started, I would love for my panelists to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about what you do and what you do specifically concerning wearable tech. I'll start with you, Judy.
Hello, my name is Judy Tomlinson. I'm the CEO of Fashion Tech, and what I have is smart jewelry. It's called Zazzy, and Zazzy will, is that what you want me to go into? Sorry.
No, go for it.
I can go on and on, I talk a lot. So Zazzy is smart jewelry that notifies you on your very important phone calls, texts, emails, social posts, and it also notifies you when you're too far away from your phone so you won't leave it behind.
Hi, my name is Yuli, and I'm the founder and CEO of Style Coalition, which is a platform helping brands connect with top bloggers and power influencers. I'm also an advisor to a wearable tech company called Aware Solutions, and I've been running Fashion 2.0 events here in New York City for the past 6 years and seeing this industry and community here in the city growing so much over the past few years and getting the center attention. I also wrote a book on the subject called Fashion 2.0 Season of Change that is talking about how the fashion industry is evolving. So I've been really passionate about the subject.
Hello, my name is, can you hear me?
I think it's going to. Maybe try Yuli.
Sorry? Hello? Can you hear me now?
Switch with Yuli.
Okay, sorry, we make it work. Okay, so my name is Pierre-Alexandre Fournier. I'm co-founder and CEO of Hexoskin. Hexoskin is a smart clothing company. It's the only smart clothing company that is selling and shipping biometric shirts to track health vitals at the moment worldwide. So the Hexoskin shirt is a shirt that tracks heart, breathing, and movement activity. It's used for sports training, sleep tracking, in general, health tracking. It probably is the only piece of clothing that you will wear and that will tell you a story about yourself. Because when you wear it, it records what you've done during the day and how your body reacted to it.
My name is Ben Arnold. I'm an industry analyst with the NPD Group. We're a business intelligence company best known for our tracking at the point of sale of a variety of products, and I'm an analyst for the consumer technology area. So I cover a bunch of different categories from audio, video to imaging, and I'm also the wearable technology analyst. And I've been covering that space probably since 2010, when it was just limited to a couple of products, and have just seen the category explode as mobile has increased in adoption, and we've just seen wearable technology, I think, as a sprout off kind of grow as well, and just really interested to see where the market goes.
So wearable tech is sort of a blanket term to describe a wide range of hardware, software, applications, other technologies. How do you define what wearable tech is now, and how do you think that category is going to change in the next 5-7 years? I'll start with you, Ben, since you are the sector expert.
Well, I think that the term wearable technology is extremely subjective, and the way that I like to think about it is in terms of sensors, right? That's the sort of common link between all of these products. So sensors that take data on your body, it sends it somewhere where you can analyze it. When you think about the market that way, it's fitness devices, it's products like glass, it's even the sleep number bed with sensors in it that can tell you how you're sleeping. And so what we'll probably see is sensors pop up in all of these previously everyday products that give us information on ourselves. And you kind of approach the market that way, and you get a feeling for how big the category can grow.
Anyone else want to weigh in about maybe something else that's included now, or what you think might be introduced in the category in the next few years?
I'll give it a try now. Okay. I think what we're seeing today is actually a very early stage of what's about to happen. And, today we call it a wearable tech, but I'm sure a few years from now, it's going to be a funny term, just like no one calls internet or mobile web, World Wide Web, and it's something that is going to disappear eventually because really, like you said, the sensors are going to live everywhere, and every simple object is going to be eventually digitized, and it doesn't matter if it's a cotton fabric or silk, it's going to be eventually having fibers in, so every object is going to turn to be a smart object. So I think the need to call it wearable tech eventually will disappear completely.
I want to add to that. I totally agree. I think that eventually we're going to have a symbol that's on our package to say that the item that we're looking at of interest will have a symbol to reference wearable tech. And then I believe that it's going to be shortened, the name. I totally agree with you.
And when you say a symbol, do you mean to indicate that it's like an internet-connected device?
Yes, it's an internet-connected device, a smart device. And I think that we're just going to immediately know that it can be it could be used and better our life in wearable tech. But it won't be called wearable tech. It'll be a symbol.
And so what are some of the products that are currently on the market that you guys are most excited about? Are there any that maybe you've used and you've stopped using, or you still are using every day?
Maybe I can answer that. Sure. Well, I think that there are many categories that are exciting and many successful companies that ship products in these categories. So all it is, for example, well, I separate the wearable tech in two categories mostly. It's on one side you have the sensors, and on the other side you have the displays. So on one side you have Hexoskin, you have Fitbit, and these products, and on the other side you have a glass, you have the smartwatches, for example. Well, personally, I'm quite excited by all these products. What you have to understand, though, is that most of these products are first generation. So it's like the PCs at the end of the 70s, where it was not meant for everybody. You need to add that kind of self-motivation. You need to be kind of motivated to adopt these products. But they got better with time because they really feel, they feel a need that people have, a need for knowledge, a need for communication, and this is not going to go away. So.
And are there any products that you're using? Have you tried Fitbit? Have you used any of Nike's or any smartwatches?
But I've used most of them.
Everything. Is there anything you're particularly a fan of?
Well, today I wear my Pebble. Mm-hmm. I wear my Hexoskin under that shirt. So I have an undershirt here that tracks my vitals, and well, that's about it for today. Actually, that's not much because I've replaced my Fitbit with an app now.
Okay. What about you, Ben?
So I'm pretty active, and I was wearing a Fitbit for a while, and the charging and just the fairly, I don't know, the shallowness of some of the information for me just didn't fit into my workout routine anymore. So I stopped using it. My wife, who works out even more than I do, stopped using it after a week. And so, when I think about that, it really puts into perspective the information that you get, making it actionable and really, making it relevant to the user. And I think that that's the next piece of the market that needs to come together. So I really love a lot of the fitness devices. I love the Hexoskin. I'd like to try that out sometime as well. One thing that I've tried that I really love is glass. And certain apps on Google Glass, like the Word Lens, which will do on the spot translations, I think is amazing, and some of their fitness apps as well, as they opened up the developer kit. So I think that glass is a really, really interesting product. It's taken a lot of PR hits, I think, lately, and so it kind of has a weird connotation now. But heads-up displays and glass in particular are products that I'm really interested in.
Well, I'm curious what you said about Fitbit. I mean, for people who haven't used it before, what were you able to track on the device, and in what way was it not actionable, or like what stats were you not able to track?
Well, I was tracking my steps, and that was great, and I'd take 12,000 steps in a day. I think one of the obstacles for me with respect to Fitbit was it was telling me how much distance I'd go in a day or how many calories I'd burn. I just didn't believe it. So I think that accuracy is a big issue for a lot of these products, making sure that the information that you're getting is actually accurate. Because I've seen people that put multiple fitness trackers on their wrists just to compare, and there's a wide variance between them. So I think that that's one of the ways that you can sort of create some engagement with the product. But aside from that, I get my steps, and it's like, great. Give me some advice. What should I do? Make it actionable. Tell me what to eat. Tell me how much more I need to work out so that I can maybe hit a certain BMI or drop a certain weight. So I think, to your point, a lot of these products are version 1.0, and so 2.0, I'm expecting for a lot of these things to kind of come together.
Interesting.
I think also a lot of those products now require a lot of actions from the users, and this is something that I think eventually is going to change. Right now, the input that you have to, loading all the data and entering, your meals to calculate calories. There's so much still kind of like input that is required from a user that I think for average person is really hard to commit to. And what I'm waiting for, and that's the reason I'm not actively getting into buying all those funky new products, is for something that is a little more organic, a little more embedded, that is kind of automated and just there to help us, but not something that I need to work on to actually power. And I think that's probably going to be the next generation of some of those products, that they're going to get more automated, they're going to be more accurate. And I completely agree. I think that the data discrepancies is really what kind of turns off people a lot of times. I used also this steps counting app, and until one point I realized that it was counting steps when I was still sitting. So that was kind of, it was very encouraging because I would end up with 10,000 steps a day, but it wasn't really true. So
Interesting. What about you?
Well, I'm curious about how many steps one takes. So I did do a test, and I did see somebody sitting down, and she just took 20 steps, and I said, that's not possible. And I think consumers really want to have accuracy. Once they can depend on that accuracy, then I think we'll start to wear them consistent. Sorry about that. So I really believe that once we get accurate with our wearables, then I think things will start to take off.
Interesting. You were going to say something?
Yeah, I just want to add something else. So we've talked about two important things here. One is wearability, and people want to wear these objects. They don't want to think about it. They don't want to manage it. They don't want to charge it. They just want to wear them, and they want to feel good with it. They want it to look good. They want it to be comfortable. And the other side is accuracy. And in this first generation of products, let's say a lot of products were pushed very fast to the market because there was an opportunity, and they didn't take time to validate the product. And actually, this is something we haven't done with Hexoskin, because with Hexoskin, we've been testing it since 2.5 years now. We work with dozens of health research groups. We work with universities, space agencies, to make sure it's at the highest standard. So it's not only wearable in the sense that it's good looking, and actually the goal would be that people would wear these objects even if the battery was dead. Even if there was no functionality, people would still like to use these objects. But at the same time, it has to be as accurate as the best instruments in the world.
So we've talked about accuracy being an issue. We've talked about there not being much actual data. What other things do you think are holding the market back? Google Glass, for example, is so criticized because of its aesthetics, and everyone says, oh, they need to work with fashion designers, and then it'll be cool, and then people wear it. And if Google Glass looks terrible, absolutely no one will wear it. Are aesthetics that important, or are there other things that you think are maybe holding people back instead?
Well, I can talk to this. Well, I know with women, we like to wear different things. We don't want to wear the same thing all the time. We reflect that in our clothes. So for me, I don't want to wear that black rubber thing all the time, whether it's to the park or to the gala. So I think, I really believe that with, as we get more into fashion, that we're going to have different devices to work with our lifestyles and our events. So I think that would help a lot better with wearing them on a a consistent basis?
I think what's missing majorly now from the market that will really take this whole industry to a next level is some sort of centralized platform that brands could create on top of. For example, in the early days of the internet, you couldn't just go online and create your website. You still use kind of like a centralized platform. You use a standard coding language. And then quickly, the web exploded with millions of domains and websites. And then the second level of evolution was when all the APIs were created and introduced a lot of standards, and a lot of people started developing on top of those existing platforms, for example, social platforms or APIs, and that exponentially made the development of things online so much faster and easier. So I think we're going to see a similar process in the wearable tech industry. If you're thinking about it now, what you have is individual companies that typically have a lot of money, like Google and Nike, just experimenting with things and putting out products that not really connected on any certain centralized platform. But I think eventually what we're going to see is something a little more standard, something that various devices can connect to in a similar way. So to your point, if you wanted to wear something to go to work out or go to a party, the device wouldn't almost matter because they're all going to be connected to one centralized platform and going to power all that data and they're going to live on top of that. And this is when I think it's going to get so much easier for smaller companies, not the Googles of the world, to come and create products on top of it because they won't have to invest in infrastructure so much. They're going to be building on top of something that has been created and more centralized.
And when you say something, are you talking about APIs that people can build on top of, or are you talking more like platform level, like something like Android Wear?
I think both. I think there will have to be a platform and some sort of like a standard, I don't want to say language because it's not a language, but a standard, I would say software. And then that will communicate through APIs. So anyone could, any company that is interested in creating wearables will be able to connect to that. The same way, for example, our platform is working on top of Facebook API, and we're able to connect to them and get all sorts of data. We don't need to create, remember in the old days, every user had to have like a user account on every website. No one is building like that today because you can log in with Facebook Connect or LinkedIn Connect. So it's a similar approach. And no one, people wouldn't have to build everything from scratch. They're going to have to, they're going to leverage some sort of like a centralized platform.
Ben, what do you think about that?
I think that certainly Google and Apple will help provide some of those tools, and it kind of depends on, are they going to, or to the extent to which they're going to accept, outside hardware into those platforms. That may be a stumbling block. That, it may cause one of those platforms to emerge over another. But I think to your earlier point about what's kind of holding the category back, certainly we talked about design. We know that design is hugely important, and I think that that is actually an opportunity for technology companies and fashion companies to work together, right? To sort of, take on each other's identity a little bit, for fashion companies to think like technology companies and understand the pace of innovation, and vice versa. Probably another obstacle for the industry, especially in the fitness space, is engagement, right? How do you keep somebody using a device? For a product like a Blu-ray player, we always want to watch movies, so we're always kind of using a product like that. But what happens, especially in fitness, when the device sort of, stays with me when I'm at, say, level 1 and I'm now at like level 5? So how can we create products that can kind of grow up with consumers throughout their fitness needs? So I think that is a huge step as well, and probably something we'll see in this version 2.0 world that I mentioned earlier.
So one challenge I see is that we have to think about electronics outside of the plastic box. And the consumer electronic industry is used to place electronics in a box. But now we have to bridge electronics with jewelry. And these are two worlds that have never talked to each other before. And we have to put electronics into clothing. And the clothing industry have never dealt with electronics before. So the know-how on how to use these new materials to integrate it with electronics, well, it doesn't really exist. And then, even if you design it, is there a supply chain that can make it so it's affordable and people can buy it at a reasonable price? You know, it's going to be a challenge for different form factor. So you see a lot of wristbands. It's, I would say I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's not one of the hardest form factor. And you see that it still looks really challenging for them to make a nice bracelet. And if you want to create nice looking glasses, jewelry, clothing that is smart, connected, well, the challenges ahead with working with these materials is huge. Actually, it's bigger than people think.
And G, I know you have firsthand experience with that.
Yes, when I think about manufacturing, like most of us in the consumer electronics world, you think about one manufacturer, but when it comes to jewelry, I think of the manufacturer and then maybe another manufacturer, so it's a challenge. One thing about engineering and jewelers, they never talked to each other before. So this is really the new frontier where we're headed. And I was just, I went to the JCK show last month, which is like jewelry or CES of jewelry. And what was amazing is that when I talked to many of the companies there, I spoke about smart jewelry, and nobody asked me what that was. They knew. It was like as if a tidal wave was coming towards them. And they just said, yeah, I know it's coming. You know, it's almost like they're afraid. But I think there's going to be new opportunities and probably a new career field for many people to be that integration between engineering and jewelry and many other accessories. And then also I think that in the world of retail, the salesperson is going to be more informed about fashion and tech. So I think really the world is just changing about how we buy, how we're presented on wearable technology. So it's really interesting. I love it.
And Ben, you touched earlier on fashion designers. We've seen so many collaborations between tech companies and fashion designers, but so far it's really been the tech companies that are making the products, and the fashion designers are lending their expertise and their branding and maybe also carry on their websites. When we think about wearable tech being a multi-billion-dollar industry in the next few years, is it going to be the big tech players like Google and Apple that are going to own the lion's share of the market? Is it going to be these new startups, or are fashion companies going to be able to enter on their own right and create and launch their own products?
Well, I think Apple and Google have a pretty good start on all of this, and the fact that probably most of us in this room own one of their products and carry it with us all the time means that there's a repository for all that data to go into. So I think that they've got to be involved in some way, just because they've got the installed base. But you know, I love the fact that you know, Luxottica is partnering with Glass to design the devices, and I think that we'll absolutely see much more of that. But you know, in terms of sort of who owns the space, who owns the data, I mean, right now it's hard to bet against Apple and Google sort of being the face of the interaction with the consumer. But that said, I absolutely think that fashion companies have a big piece of this. Certainly, there's a lot of activity in the startup community looking at the space, so they're very important as well. Just a matter of the market growing. Right? We're still very much in this nascent phase right now, and we'll see how it scales. But you know, Apple and Google, they have all the data. They have all the developers making apps for their platform. So it's hard for me to bet against them having a huge presence in the market right now.
I'm going to be the voice of the people or the smaller companies, I would say, because I think we used to think about, you know, that market is okay, how can you go against someone like Apple or Google, but I think they're enjoying now this sweet time of owning the market, but that honeymoon is probably going to end pretty soon, because every technology, and we've seen it before, at some point it becomes a commodity, and you will see much more players entering the space, and players that don't need such big investments in order to compete. So I think at some point we're definitely going to see a lot of fashion giants like, the Burberrys of the world and the Ralph Laurens that, can definitely invest, can afford to invest those resources. But I also think other technology companies, someone like HP, who's been, very challenged with their desktop and laptop business, and they need new opportunities. They need kind of like the new frontier, and that could be interesting for them because they already invested so much in the design and aspect of their product. So I think those types of companies are going to eventually enter the competition as well, and not to mention startups. So I think those are the three main groups that are going to challenge, hopefully soon, the Google and Apple. And I think it's going to make the space very interesting and very creative. I mean, today we're talking about Google Glass. It's just one product. Imagine the possibilities of how many products we could have, and how many different points of views and designers' points of views. And so this is just the beginning, and I can't bet how long this is going to take, but we've seen technologies exponentially growing, so it can be a couple of years from now.
And I'm curious what challenges you guys see from the retail side. I mean, Amazon has their wearable tech store. You can go to Best Buy, try out a couple of devices. I mean, is the fact that retailers aren't carrying these devices broadly sort of a roadblock? Like, what kind of support, would you guys like to see from retailers on the wearable tech front?
One thing with retailers, I think that, let me just step back and say that as a consumer, the whole window display is going to have to be different. So there's going to have to be like maybe information, a monitor saying how it's useful for the user, and then also you're going to have that person, that educated person about the tech behind it. There's also going to be warranty issues and things like that. So, but I also see other wearable stores popping up. So not just Amazon or any other, or I forgot the other one you mentioned, but I bet there's going to be a lot of wearable stores popping up, and they're just going to have their own unique way of presenting the wearable tech.
And it sounds like you're thinking that as a physical retail experience and less as an online experience.
I think it needs to go to the physical. People need to touch it, feel it, use it, put it on, try it on. I don't know. Have you experienced that when they talk about, well, what does it feel like? Instead of going online, you're with your clothing.
At some point you have to go retail. People are going to wear it. Like, for example, for Hexoskin, some people think it's really heavy.
Yeah.
When it's really, really light. It's a very thin fabric to use.
Right.
So being in retail stores will help. But what we may see happen too is new retail stores that are specialized in fashion and technology, and I don't think we have that today. So we have stores that sell fashion goods, and we have stores like Best Buy. But should these new objects be sold at Best Buy? Because that's not where people traditionally go to get a fashion item, to make a fashion statement. So I think we may see new retailers that are going to take some space between the traditional retailers.
And for you guys personally, we've seen so many online native brands like Warby Parker and Everlane and Bobble Bar launch pop-up shops to really get their products in people's hands. Is that something you guys are considering or think would be a good method to get these products in people's hands?
Yes.
Yes.
And Ben, I'm curious, what are you seeing on the retail front?
Well, I think it kind of goes back to this idea of the fashion and tech worlds kind of colliding. And when you talk about a retail store, making sure that the sales associate is well enough versed in either side to talk to consumers. And I think it also goes to, this isn't like really cutting edge technology, but it's advanced technology. So talking to consumers that may not necessarily be tech savvy about how these products work and what to expect from them, I think that is a big challenge at retail. But on our side, especially for the fitness products, I mean, we're starting to see like a wide array of retailers start to sell them. I mean, Kohl's sells Fitbit now, and I think we'll see many more examples of that. So it's certainly becoming more mainstream, more widespread. But to the earlier point about pop-up shops or retailers that are specifically focused on wearable technology, that may be what it takes, right? Because these are hard backgrounds to bring into retail when we're talking about such different worlds. I think that's a very interesting idea to think about for retail.
And I have a few more questions for you, but we only have about 6 minutes left, so I'd love to open up questions to the audience, if they have any. Right there.
I'd like to ask how you think privacy is a concern, because when you buy a fitness app, you're obviously buying it to find out about your own fitness. But someone who wears Google Glass is basically a 24-hour surveillance bot, and they wear it for themselves and maybe for the people around them. So, number one, the social signals are quite different, aside from fashion signals. But I'm wondering if you see there being big concerns with privacy. What happens to the data that smart wearables are collecting?
I think there are huge concerns with privacy, and not just with glass, but as you mentioned, with fitness devices, because it's your data on your body, right? So where does that information go? Does it fall into the hands of somebody that may down the road charge you more for insurance or something like that? So yeah, absolutely. And I think with glass in particular, there's that very literal idea of privacy and somebody that has a camera on. And what I think happens with those types of products is hopefully we get to a point as a society where wearers know when it's appropriate to wear these things and when it's not, right? It's not appropriate to wear in a movie theater or maybe in the restroom, but certainly in other places it is. And hopefully we get to that point that we don't have to maybe legislate it up there, but absolutely. I mean, privacy is a concern on the desktop. It's of concern on your body as well, certainly.
So we're very concerned about privacy, but we don't think it's a new problem. I think it's the same problem you have with your phone calls, your emails, your credit card transactions, all these things you do that leave traces, digital traces behind you. And most of the time, we will use the same kind of tools to protect your privacy as they use in these industries, like the credit card industry, for example. Well, like I said, it's not a problem for the wearable industry. It's a problem for the tech industry at large. And I think there's a lot of people working on that.
Just to add to that, I think you're talking about two different types of data. One is your personal data, like your temperature and health, and the second is the passwords and the bank information and all that data. So I think when it comes to personal information, actually increasing number of consumers are willing to trade that information for products that are beneficial to them. There's studies there that I think the number is about 65% of consumers are actually willing to share their data if they get some sort of benefit. So I think my opinion on that is pretty radical. I think that the privacy concerns are people are going to be more and more comfortable with sharing things as we go. And if you look back at the history, in the beginning, how people were so concerned with being on social media and even sharing their own photos and personalities. I remember when the internet started, everyone had some sort of like a nickname that was not their real name, and slowly, we opened up, and now our entire life is pretty much online. So I think those things, you can see how through the years they changed and are the barriers changed and our boundaries are changing. And I think the new generation is completely, like, doesn't have the same concerns that we have.
And a question in the back over there.
Hi. So how much do you think like geodes and eye beacons will help you grow your business long term and wearables overall? How much is that going to help you really grow the sector?
Anyone want to take that one?
What did he say? I didn't quite hear.
Geodes and beacons, if that's going to be incorporated into your products at all.
Oh, okay. Well, we do have a roadmap with my product, and we will start to look at the future, the lifestyle of the consumer, and see what we can incorporate in our platform. We're still developing that, so I don't like to take data from other people. You know, I'm a consumer myself, so we're going to put things on. I can only speak about my product, and we're going to put things on our product that doesn't interfere with the privacy of others. So that's it.
Okay, maybe that one's a passport. Right down here.
What would be the impact of China, on this industry, as they mature? Just think about tablets and the number of tablets now that come from China, where the prices are just crazy, crazy low. And I think about we're near the fashion district, and I see all these stores selling jewelry for $1. Is that where wearable technology is going to be going? 5 or 10 years from now, that you could just go into a store and buy anything for $1. That's a smart jewelry item.
Well, for the most part, the technology parts are pretty low cost, right? What makes it a premium is the Louis Vuitton label on it, So certainly we'll definitely see that kind of gray market or black market for those products emerge, like it happens in every product category. But what makes it premium is this idea of authenticity. But the technology part, pennies sensors cost. So that will immediately go to China and grow very big. Yeah.
Right here.
Just a comment and then maybe a question. I just want to add to what this lady was saying about the issues of privacy and then tapping into your comment, Ben, where you said that Apple and Google would get it all. There's something very scary about Apple and Google controlling the business. And just a very quick story. My father-in-law recently had to go through treatment for prostate cancer. And I did a lot of research about the equipment and all this stuff. The next thing I know, the following couple of months, I got bombarded with ads for Viagra and erectile dysfunction products, and God knows what, all male products. Where did that come from? Google search. And so the point is that when you have your medical information being uploaded somewhere, if I have like addiction with pills or something, am I going to start getting ads from Pfizer for statins or whatever? We all agree that this is all new, but there was a real scary aspect of it about privacy that I really wish as an industry, I've been involved in technology for 30 years. I hope to God we take this a hell of a lot more seriously.
If I may, I agree with what you say. And when you buy these devices, make sure you read the terms and see how they are going to use your data. In our case, there's no way your personal information would be used for marketing. This is just not something we want to do.
So, sorry, we have time for one last question. Take over there.
Judy, the jewelry industry, how does the 3D printer factor into your industry as new technology?
So The 3D printer, I work with jewelers, and they do have their own professional 3D printing. And so I use the same technology as jewelers. So I know that you're asking about the 3D printer for making your own jewelry. Is that what you're asking about?
Wherever it goes.
Oh, okay. Wherever it goes. Okay. So I think with the 3D printing, it's not just jewelry, but it's also textiles. And yes.
I'm more concerned about the 3D printing as far as your technology here.
So it's pretty much the same because I'm basing it off the already technology of jewelers, and they have their own 3D printing. They have it's very interesting because it's very engineering-like. And so with that, there's the same process. The only difference is that now there's technology in there. And so we have to be very careful with the materials that we use, because now with smart jewelry, you have the Bluetooth, the low energy, the 4.0 low energy. So we have to position where these materials are placed so that you get the maximize, so that your jewelry can be used and it can be well used, because you can't have too much metal all around it. So
You're already using the 3D printer.
yes, when we make our jewelry as if it was made. I mean, it is made with a jeweler. So they have a 3D printer. They've been using a 3D printer. It's just a high quality manufacturing type of printer. So yes, I mean, it was always there. Now you see 3D printers that you can do your prototypes with, and use your own software, things like that. But with jewelry, they use a software called Matrix, and it's just like CAD. My background is engineering. I have an electrical engineering degree, and it's interesting because it's I used to do CAD, and it's like, wow, this is fun because now I'm making something that women can wear, and so I don't see any difference. I just see that it's technology, and now it's starting to be pretty, and it's just integrating some of the.
The aerospace industry has used the 3D
Exactly.
the last 25 years.
Yes.
So, I mean,
It's interesting.
I find it interesting that it's going.
I used to work in the aerospace. So what? Yeah, and it's so fascinating because I used to do CAD, and so now with the jewelers, it's just really fun to see now that I'm making something that we can wear. I think this is really the new frontier, and now everything is pretty much integrating fashion, technology, and we're really trying to minimize or miniaturize the actual components so that it can be smaller. For instance, my jewelry it has e-paper, so that it can be 3 days to a week. It could be used after charged, and also because I'm tech, I love having the e-paper. And anyway, I can go on and on, like I said, but thank you for asking because I really like that subject.
Well, that's all the time we have for. So thank you so much to the panelists, and thank you for watching.